What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben and welcome back to Ben Builds with Joe, episode number 2 for our Lagg-3 Series 11. Now today, guys, I really wanted to go ahead and jump into the cockpit, start gluing and painting and all that good stuff, but I can't do that quite yet because there's a couple of problem areas we need to address. Now, because this is an ICM kit, this kit is designed to be able to create a whole bunch of different series, all the way from Series 1 to Series 11. Now this kit here is just a 7 through 11 series, but doesn't really mean much because we have a ton of extra parts for the Series 1 through 4 as well. One of the areas we have to go ahead and focus on first is the fuselage. Now I mentioned this last time as well. The Series 1 through 7 actually had a step in that rear fuselage, but the Series 11 had a continuous line from that bottom of that oil cooler all the way to the tail. Now, of course, because this is meant to make a whole bunch of different ones, we're going to have to take some plastic card, we're going to have to cut out a couple of pieces, glue them together, and we're going to have to fair that in ourselves while still retaining that actual exhaust area coming out of the back of that oil cooler. The next thing we're going to have to focus on, guys, is actually the front nose. Because I'm building Mironov's Lagg-3 Series 11, he's supposed to have actually added an extra gun, so we'd have 2 machine guns up in the front of the cowling and then 1 cannon firing through the propeller hub. Because, of course, this is not a customed Lagg-3, we don't have a cowling that fits that description. Now, if we look on the Series 11 cowling that we're going to be using, we see that we have some exhaust vents and we have the single machine gun. That is actually not present on the right side. It's only on the left side, which stands to reason because, well, the Series 11 production aircraft only had one 50 cal machine gun, so it only needs 1 pair of vents just for that one gun. Now, of course, because we want to go ahead and create what we have found online to be Mironov's customized armament for his Lagg-3 Series 11, we need to go ahead and add in the gun ports and also the gun vents. Now, how are we going to do that? Well, there's one way we can, and that's actually to take this. This is a Series 1 Lagg-3 nose. We can go ahead and cut that part off and just swap them out. I was actually thinking about maybe just cutting this at the panel line, cutting this at the panel line, and just swapping out just the front of the noses. But that's not really going to work after I looked a bit closer at it, because you see a lot of different surface detail on the Series 1 through 4 aircraft than you do on the Series 11 nose. We just can't make a direct swap. It's not going to happen. So what I thought about doing now, though, is I can just basically take this part and maybe just cut out that gun port and make the swap that way. Now, I'm not sure that's going to work, but as you can see here in a close-up, the differences in surface detail, well, it's pretty substantial. You do have a lot of rivet detail that you don't have on the Series 11, but you have them here on the Series 1, so we can't make a direct swap. It's not really going to work. So we're just going to take the gun port itself, cut that out of the Series 1 aircraft, swap it over to the Series 11. We're going to have to draw out where that gun's supposed to be placed, cut into the plastic, and, well, hopefully directly swap it right over to the other cowling. Then we'll have to drill it out and make it look good. Not easy, but I think doable. Now, before I start that nose, though, let's turn our attention over to the fuselage real quick, because I want to go ahead and start with something a little easier to do, and I think the easiest thing here is going to be to go ahead and fair in this rear part of the fuselage. Now, to do that, though, I think we're going to be using some plastic card, and I'm going to glue just strips of it together to make it a little thicker, because the one size I have is too thin, so we have to go ahead and double them up. Now, once I've glued these together, we can then trace them out, cut it to the profile, glue it in place, let that cure, then come back probably next episode, and then we'll be able to shave it down and create that one unbroken line from the bottom of the oil cooler all the way to the tail. Now, I have a scrap piece of plastic card right here. Let's just test this out. I'm going to take my pencil. We're going to draw in the basic profile of this stepped area here in the fuselage. I'll take my scissors and I'm just going to trace that line out and cut out the other part of the plastic. Then I will have a nice test piece. I can go ahead and just kind of check and see if this fits together. And if it does fit, we'll be able to go ahead and jump into a time lapse. All these parts glued in, and we should be looking pretty stellar. So I think, honestly, that looks decent enough. I think I could work with that. So let's go ahead and cue up that time lapse. Let's get all these parts glued together and see what we can do. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and put those fuselage parts aside. We'll let those dry. I've got those pieces of plastic glued into the areas, and I'm going to let them cure for a little while before we go ahead and bring them back out. So next episode, we'll go ahead and jump back on those, get those all taken care of. But of course, I've moved over here to the front nose. Now, my idea here is pretty simple. We're going to use our flush cuts, and we're going to cut out this area here right out of the Series 1 nose. Now, I shouldn't have to use anything from the Series 1 model kit. This is all included in the same Lagg-3 ICM boxing. So there's no harm, there's no foul. The only issue, of course, is if I can't get this to install correctly in my Series 11 nose, we're going to have to go to the other Series 11 nose that we have in the kit, do a little bit of modification to that, and well, we have something to fall back on. That's the only reason why I'm doing this, is because, well, I have parts I can fall back on. So now that I have this gun port cut out, we're going to go ahead and clean it up, and we just want the gun port and the gun barrel itself, nothing more. So I have that all nicely cut out, and I think it's a little thick, of course, so we're going to use our jeweler files and our X-Acto knife. We're going to shave it down a little bit, and then we'll be able to test fit it here onto the model and figure out where it's supposed to go. Now, I don't want to take off too much plastic, because if I do, it might actually damage or hurt the shape of the gun port. So I'm just going to take off barely what I need to take off, and I'm going to work bit by bit, go ahead and take just parts of it off very slowly. Like they've said, it's easier to dig a trench than it is to build a mountain. If I take off too much plastic, I'm not going to be able to get this to work. Now, to go ahead and figure out the placing here for this second gun port, I'm going to be using the Lagg-3 Series 1 nose that I went ahead and I removed that gun port. We're going to use the other side to go ahead and kind of zero in on where this is supposed to be. I'll use my pencil, then we'll just go ahead and make a quick mark, and I'll be able to kind of roughly sketch in where I think the gun port's going to go. If the Lagg-3 Series 1 is any indication, it's going to go a little bit forward of that left-mounted 50 cal, and it's going to be about, yeah, right about there. It looks about right. Now, I will have to go ahead and remove some of the plastic. I will have to go and cut into the cowling. That's going to be a little scary too, because if I miscut and I cut out too much, we're going to have to come back and backfill a lot of plastic in there, and I just don't really want to do that. But I think we have a good idea where this is going to go. Speaking of drills, guys, I did pick this up off of Amazon. It's a little handheld drill. It's not the best drill, and it's not really meant for anything too rough, but it will work well here on the plastic. So let's go ahead and drop the battery in here and get this thing all nicely drilled out. One thing I did notice here on the Lagg-3s, they have a very large gun barrel, or kind of like a gun barrel shroud that protrudes from those front gun ports. We're going to create that now by doing a little bit of fanciness with our Q-tips. Now again, these are the same types of Q-tips I use in multiple occasions here on different model kits. We're just going to stretch them out because they're already hollow. We don't have to drill them out. All we'll have to do is just cut them to length, and then we can place them in and we'll be good to go. We'll make one more just to be on the safe side. I want it a little bit thicker. I don't want it so thin. And just a little bit of a stretch here, not too much. There we go. Right about there should do it. Yeah, that looks about right. Let's go ahead and take our X-Acto knife and we're going to slice that here. We're going to try to stick towards the end so I have a little bit larger opening. And that right there should do it. I can use my pin vise with my awl right here. Just kind of open this area up, make sure it's nice and round. And I think we'll be ready to go ahead and try it in the gun port itself. Might have to do a little bit of drilling though, so let's go ahead and get out that drill again and open up those gun ports. All right, got my drill. Let's go ahead and just drill out. We're going to start with the existing left-hand side 50 cal. We're just going to auger this out with our little handheld drill and our drill bit. And I think that's looking pretty decent. I'm going to cut out the entire barrel shroud that kind of comes out the front of this. I'm going to cut the whole thing out because I'm going to replace it with my plastic that I just stretched off of my Q-tip. And I think that should be pretty decent. Go ahead and pull out the X-Acto knife as well and just kind of open up these areas and drill them out, sand them down. I think honestly this is going to look really, really cool when we're all done with it. Let's go ahead and give you guys a close-up here. As you can see, we've got the left side all drilled out. We've got the gun barrel shroud completely removed, and now we're going to replace it with our Q-tip that we've stretched and kind of augered out. I think that looks pretty decent, but I think we're going to go ahead and call it quits for today. We've done a lot of work here, so we're going to go ahead and let things dry. We'll go ahead and drill in the vents. We'll finish off the fuselage, and we shall hopefully be ready to go ahead and start installing the cockpit and doing some painting. So until next episode, guys, make sure to go over there, check out Joe's channel, tune into his build. I know he's going to do some awesome things with his Lagg-3 Series 1 through 4, and we'll see you back here on the next episode of Ben Builds with Joe. So until then, guys, you know the deal. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you soon.